and welcome back to the Career Build Series, episode number 68. And so I've done a ton of work on the amphibious plane. Lots of work on it. I think I'm going to call it the Seagull. It has a gull wing. I think that will suit it well. So a bunch of work here, quite a bit, looking back at what we did last episode. So let's try to go and I'll do a quick little walk around and recap and go through everything. So first thing, we'll do a little walk around. So the body has changed quite a bit. The main thing was the back of it, and so kind of using the sea duck from Tailspin as part of my inspiration and the mallard. And so one of the reasons you often get these twin boom designed planes is to make space for the ability to load in cargo. And so I thought that would be a cool and important element. And I also wanted to make this a more versatile craft. I didn't really care for the tail, and it was pretty useless. It pretty much just narrowed down, and I wasn't going to be able to put much stuff in there. And so what I decided to do was go with a cargo door. It's currently hanging up, but that's easily fixable. It's just a timing issue. So this door here, we have a multi-functional door. And so it should stow. I have to redo the timing on it. But if we lower the door, we can go to the middle position. If you look inside, we have a watertight door in there. So this is sealable so that this can go in the water and it won't have any water intrusion. You can go down. I have 3 of these panels. I have one here, one on the inside of the cargo bay, and one in the cockpit. So I can control it from each place. And as you can see, so we have ramps that go all the way down to the ground. So that's one of the benefits of having a twin boom design, is the boom is nice and high. The tails are split, so instead of having one big fat tail, you have 2 smaller tails. And that allows you to load cargo in the middle here. So going to open the watertight door as well. And we can go on in. So it's going to have a track system. At first, I segmented this into 2 rooms, but I've started building down in the lower level. So that's going to be kind of, I wouldn't say living quarters, we'll say camping quarters. That's kind of where you'd go and, if you're going to spend the night, you'd spend it down there. And so this has a track system, so should be able to put some stuff. I made a vehicle to go in here as well. That took a little bit of time. We have our entry door here. I readjusted the stairs on here. I have 1 step into the cockpit, which is pretty typical. Not done by any stretch of the imagination, but I put in the panels. This was today's project. This took pretty much all of today to do. It is very in-depth. I make my aircraft, as somebody who was a professional pilot, a commercial pilot, I make my aircraft try to be as realistic as possible. So I line up my panels to be very realistic. I wire them up realistically. I add in some functionality and some problems that you might encounter if you don't operate the craft correctly. And so that took a lot. I have so many channels on here. I pretty much almost run to 32 channels per side. I finally pulled off some panels and put them on something else. But I kept having some issues, having to fix it. It has my manifold pressure, constant speed propeller system in. So it is going pretty well. So let's continue the tour. So we have a hatch here. Just drop it in the hatch here, and you'll notice 2 more hatches. Have little living quarters in here. So as you can see, we can come in the bed. So these are just small enough that you could crawl in and go to sleep. They have, both sides have thermal clothing and firefighting outfit. If we go on this side, same thing here. We can also turn the light there. And as you can see, it's just opposite because that's how you have to do it to get all those clothing in. This here, I might have a little sitting area or something. I haven't decided yet. This just is access for the nose wheel. And then you can walk up this little ramp here, and this is going to have more access. This might have like a little galley. You do have to kind of crouch down, but, one of the... I love to, little small little yachts and sailboats and campers, how they really hide everything well. And so that's kind of what this lower level is all about, is kind of being like a camper, where you crawl around there and you have a little bit of space. The mallard, you actually had an opening here on the first officer side, and you could crawl under here and go up the nose to a buoy. All right, so let's go through a startup procedure here. Hopefully I'm not sliding around too much. Let's actually just spawn it fresh. And yeah, let's spawn it fresh. So the timing was working on the ramp. It's not presently working, so I have to redo the timing. This ramp speed needs to be timed. This has to be timed. I really wish the devs would add a composite node to small pivots. With the large pivots give you the ability to read its current position, so you can do better gear and everything else. And so I really love it if they'd put a composite on those pivots. And since we got it, the gimbal update, I hope they're going in that direction where they're adding composites to more things so we can get more functionality out of them. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll do a startup. So a very realistic startup. I do have infinite electricity, and I haven't hooked that up yet, but we select batteries 1 and 2, systems, avionics. Avionics will turn on our screens. Then what we want to do to start an engine, so we could connect to ground power. I haven't hooked that up yet, but that would be the cable. If I turn on my APU, which is not made yet, I can also select APU gen for power, but we're going to go ahead and start on the batteries. So we have to turn on the fuel valve and hold the starter. All right, and then we want to turn on the second fuel valve and the starter. All right, so we're up and running here. So often, it's often a turboprop thing, but I don't know if they have any with recips, but it's often a turboprop thing, but you have what's called beta. And so if we look at the props, we have, I think it's 0.25 pitch on the collective there. So often what you can do is drop your engines, drop into beta, and so you pull your thrust levers back into beta. I get 2 lights here showing that I'm in beta 1 and 2. And what that does is, if you look, that will flatten out the propellers. And that's what beta is in real IRL, is it flattens out the blades, because often, especially in turboprops, you get so much static thrust just sitting there. You'll often have to drag the brakes and ride the brakes when you're taxiing. So what you'll do is you'll put up the throttle to idle, to ground idle, let it coast, and then you'll put it in a beta, and it will make sure you don't go too fast. If we bring them back, it will go into reverse. So we get up to, I think it's 30% in reverse. So hydraulic system's still not working. But if I turn my brake off here, you'll notice we start to slowly go backwards. So we get a little bit of reverse there. This is important in the water so that we can go around the water. Kick it back into beta. All right, so we're back into beta with flat blades. We're going to put 1 notch of flaps down, and let's start taxiing out. So the way these complex aircraft work, complex is a specific term for aviation. It's retractable landing gear, constant speed propellers. There have to be a bunch of different aspects that make the aircraft quote-unquote complex, and so this has the retractable landing gear, constant speed propeller. And so when you have a fixed pitch propeller, so the pitch is always the same, you operate via RPM. So you just, throttle up, RPM increases, throttle down, RPM decreases. When you go to constant speed propeller, you switch to manifold pressure, and that's the amount of air going into the intake manifold. I can't really simulate that perfectly, so I do it, kind of fake it. And so I have manifold pressure. That's essentially how much power the engine's making. And then underneath that you have RPM. That's the propeller. So it's actually the engine RPM, but it's the, that's when you change the pitch of the propellers, you're setting what RPM you want the engine to go to with the propeller lever. And so we can go up to, I think it's like 1900 in this. And so you go, I've faked the numbers too, but 19, try to make them realistic. But we can go to a certain RPM of the engine. And so as you increase the pitch of the propellers, that creates more load on the engine, which will reduce the RPM. And so this will automatically adjust and maintain that RPM for me. So as we're taxiing out here, let's go ahead and set an altitude 5,000 feet. Let's go ahead and put in a heading of 7.2 because that's our current runway heading. Beacon should be on. Nav lights are coming on. I don't have a logo hooked up yet. We'll go strobes. Let me just double check, make sure everything's working. I'm still working on a lot of stuff. Okay, strobes are working now. Strobes are working. All right, good. We can do taxi light. Now the taxi light is on the nose wheel, and that's going to also be hooked up so that it will turn with the wheel. I have the wheel steering not actually turning with a pivot. So I need to get that light so the light will pivot for me. When we retract the landing gear, that taxi light will shut off. That's how it is in real life. You have it so that there are squat switches, so the light will not illuminate if the gear is not down, and it wouldn't be a squat switch in that case. It would be a down limit switch. And the reason why you do that is the lights are so bright and so powerful that you could potentially, put a lot of heat into your wheel wells if you did that. And you also don't want to wear out the lights. They're very expensive. And so when you retract the gear, that light will automatically turn off, and then we can just flick the switch off. We have landing light. We have 3 landing lights. They still need to be tilted. I love the new gimbal update. That's great. So we have 1 on each wing, and then we have 1 on the nose there. All right, so those are our 3 landing lights. So let's turn the taxi on for takeoff. So flaps are down. Let's see what else to go through. Hydraulics is still not working correctly. This is supposed to actually, if we go below a certain hydraulic pressure, it's just essentially an up-down counter. If the engine's over 3 RPS and if the switch is on, it will increase hydraulic pressure. If the hydraulic goes below a certain value, it will essentially give you half of the your control effectiveness. So we'll have half of the pitch on our pitch fins, we'll have half of the yaw on our tail on our rudders, and we'll have half of the roll on our ailerons. So it's important to maintain that. 1 and 2 keys are my propellers in unison. So I want to push those all the way forward for takeoff. That's how you do it. Always have them forward for takeoff. I can bring them back with 2, or I can independently control them here, so I could do one more than the other. I can also, with up-down, I can move both thrust levers here. Let's bring them back into beta. As you can see, we're constantly rolling forward. If I put into beta, that should slow us. I can also independently control these. So if I want to make a left turn here on the runway, I could kick this up a little bit, and I could have that stay up, and then I could push both of them up for my turn, and then when I come back, I could sync them. And I can sync them by just going back and forward. Now, as you can see, we wouldn't want to go in reverse and beta in the air, so those are also connected up to a distance sensor on the bottom. That distance sensor on the bottom acts like a radar altimeter. IRL, it would be weight on wheels, so it would be a squat switch. And so if you're not on the ground, it wouldn't allow you to go into beta or reverse. So once we get in the air and we have enough altitude, it's very close. It's like just over a meter. We're at 0.65 meters off the ground. It will make it so that we can't go into reverse. It also hooks up to the water sensor, so if we land in the water, it will allow us to go into beta or reverse. All right, what else do we have here? Parking brake. That's our parking brake release, so it'll show if it's on, off. We also have brake temperature, so if normally we'd have to be moving, but if I hold down my brakes, it will build up temperature. So that's something you have to watch IRL. You'll very quickly on a landing, if you're heavy, you can overheat the brakes. So with the 3 and the 4 keys, I can control my left and right brakes independently. As you can see, that's my left brake. Right brake's not doing anything. There's my right brake, and so that will allow me to turn tighter, especially seeing I don't have a fully 90-degree turning nose wheel. Let's go ahead and pre-select heading hold and altitude hold. I have my heater, which is not connected yet. I have my lighting system, which I can dim and brighten. I can also go to white lights and off. This side is the cargo ramp. I can control that. I have 2 keypads. These are going to be linked at some point for the autopilot. This one's just working now. Altitude, heading hold. So let's quickly go through the panel. Hopefully you guys find this interesting, but I set this up like a real panel for a real modern aircraft. So you have your batteries. You select both batteries. Systems, avionics. Again, if we want to connect to ground power, we click that. APU gen, if the APU was on, we could run off the generator. Battery. So as you notice, all the electrics are in one area. Battery. Volts isn't connected yet, or is not working. It's connected, but I have infinite electricity on. That's why it's not working. Lighting's all across the bottom. Then we go up to the top here. We have starters, fuel valves. So this all has to do with fuel, essentially, in our engines. There's our fuel in pounds. I haven't hooked this up yet, but that's fuel flow in pounds per hour. Let's see which one's fuller. This one wasn't working earlier, so let's see if it's working now. All right, this isn't working, so this is supposed to be a cross feed so that I can, you can see, we have different weight on either side in fuel. So this should allow me to send fuel from my port wing to my starboard wing. Going up from there, this isn't connected yet, but we have how much power the APU is generating. This will be the start-stop for the APU. This is Gen 1 and 2 for the engine. Don't really need those on right now because we have infinite electricity. I haven't hooked up the wing icing panel yet, but I'm going to put on, paint the leading edges of the wings black. What you have is these pneumatic boots, and they're always black. And so they pump air in them, so they let ice build up, and then they pump them up, and it breaks the ice away. And so what we'll get is we'll get a wing ice indicator. So often what you'll have is a probe, so it's just a little finger sticking out of the side of the airplane, and it has very little vibration. When water or snow or anything, ice in the atmosphere hits it, it will generally not go on there evenly, and you'll get a vibration from the air resistance going over it, and that will tell you you have ice. And so our system that I'm used to, it would go on there, it would vibrate, that would turn on the heat for the probe would melt it off, it would stop, it would shut the heat off. If it did it again, it would give you a warning ice. And then I had anti-ice. Anti-ice is better. It takes the hot bleed air from a jet and it puts it through the leading edge of the wing, and it prevents ice from forming. This breaks the ice off. We also have propeller de-ice, and that will be a prop ice indicator. So I have to set up something so these will come on. I've done them before. And so when you put these on, that will take it off. Cabin temp and outside temp are not done yet. We have a backup compass. You always need a backup compass legally. Manifold pressure 1 and 2, RPM 1 and 2, temperature 1 and 2, gear. If I put this up, it just did this, so hopefully it works. Alright, so as you can see, I can put my landing gear handle up, and the gear will not go up. And this happens IRL. They have squat switches, so when the gear compresses, it presses a tiny little switch, and it says, hey, you're on the ground, you can't put your gear up, and it prevents you from accidentally putting the gear up. On the water, if it's detecting water, it will allow me to put the gear up. And in the air, of course. We have green is down and locked, so we have nose and the two mains. That will go to transit, nose and mains, and then it will go red to show they're in their up position. Again, we have the propeller, so I can manually change my propellers. Over here we have flaps, so flap indicator, flap positions. This is going to be a radio probably, and this will be an annunciator panel. So that will show us all our caution and warning messages. And I think that's it. So let's go ahead and we'll go for a little flight. We'll start powering up. Alright, here we go. So often, this actually works in game pretty well. You have what's known as breakaway thrust. And so you'll notice I'm going to go all the way back to beta. And so it takes a lot of power to get moving, but once you're moving, it doesn't take much power. So we used to have to go like 75% power just for a couple seconds to get moving. And then once you start moving, you can reduce it back to almost idle. And, you know, the planes have a lot of momentum. It wants to keep moving. So I'm going to use my left arrow for steering, and I can also tap my 3 key to help me tighten up this turn. And that's giving me a nice tight turn. And so we'll go the other way to get us straightened up. Alright, so here we are on the runway. Let's go full throttle. There's a nice nice low rotation speed around 65, 70 knots. Positive rate, gears coming up. And let's see, the gear is not working at the moment, so we'll fix that. I've had some issues, so I also tap the brakes when I get off the ground, so we'll fix the gear. Gear is misbehaving. Alright, now we're in the air. We can shut off our landing light. Let's go ahead and put the autopilot on, let the autopilot fly a little bit. So this is very fuel efficient, runs really well. We'll go through the constant speed propeller. So again, we're setting the RPM that we want with the engine with the propellers. We're not setting it with the throttles. The throttles are saying how much power we want, and this is doing how much RPM we want. And so what we can do here is, once we get in the air, as you can see, we're doing 116. That's because we have a low pitch in the propellers. We want this. This allows us to be able to change our speed of our engine quickly. And that's, you know, when your RPM is high, when your propellers are at a low pitch, you can change your engine speed quickly. This is important. If you start sinking too quickly as you're coming into land, you want to be able to push those throttles up and get speed really quick on the engines. If you had really wide propellers, if you had a big collective, a big pitch in your propellers, it would take too long to get your engines to spool up and you'd have a crash. And so that's why you want that. But once you're in the air, so we're going to press 2, we're going to start to reduce our propeller RPM. So here comes our propeller RPM. So we just went down a little bit, and as you can see, we gained some. I have a little bit of a jitter in a certain area. As you can see, the needle's going crazy. That's me. I need to work on the D value in the PID. But that will be done. So I'm just gently reducing the propeller pitch. And so you have a pitch for max speed. And so your takeoff propeller setting again, and it's also your landing propeller, it's set on this particular craft to 0.25. It's set again so that you can quickly change engine speed. So that if you need to chop some power, you can do it quickly. If you need to add power, more importantly, you can add it quickly. And so then above that, you get what's your max speed. And so, a lot of people will try to just make their plane always do max speed. Or they'll try to make full forward pitch on their propellers max speed. That's not really what you want. You want to have a low pitch setting be for takeoff and landing, and that's a lower speed but high RPM. Low pitch, high RPM. Then somewhere in the middle, you want to have your best speed. And so this is about our best speed. I'm actually going to increase the RPM limit on there and try to get a little bit more speed out of there. I was over 200 for a little bit there. And then as we continue to reduce our propeller pitch, or as we continue to increase our propeller pitch, it will reduce our RPM. Reduced RPM gives us greater fuel economy. And so this is what's known as your max endurance. So you go to max endurance and you reduce your RPM, and now you get more blade pitch, as we can see. It reduces our speed, but not by a ton, but it really reduced the RPM, so that will save us fuel. So this is our max endurance. So if we wanted to go faster, we would go to max speed setting, and if we wanted to go more economically, we go to our max endurance. All right, we have temp over here. This holds temp really well. As you see, it should hit 100, and the cooling system will not come on till 100, and as you can see, it knocks it right back down below 100. So it will maintain us right around 100. So as you can see. So I need to work on why it's smoking and stuff like that, but it is currently, cooling system's working really well. Let's see what else is in here. Same old bearing system. I need to fix that because I don't have the ADFs in the world anymore. So it still works with GPS and everything else, but it doesn't currently work with the bearing system because I have to fix that. So somebody was asking why, this was one of the questions people had when I first did the ADF system. Why don't you just pre-program in all the GPS coordinates and fake it? And that's something I'm going to probably end up having to do. One of the reasons I didn't want to do that is the way the game works with the seeds is I was attaching my ADF system to the different islands. And so no matter what seed I had, the frequencies would still be the same because the shacks, the physicalized shacks, would actually go with the seed. It also made it so that depending upon what size antenna I had, I natively had a certain range. And so I can fake all that, but I don't like to fake it if I don't have to. And so I'm going to end up having to fake it, unfortunately. But let's go ahead and let's head back. All right, and so put in a waypoint here. We'll go nav. That's our GPS, and then heading hold off. And so this is how they are in real life too. Is you notice how how heading hold took precedence over waypoint, and that's on purpose. Is you always want to have it backed up, and so, like for example, I know the runway heading 072, and so it'd be was it a 252. So what I want to do is back that up. So as I'm coming in, I want a 252. So if the GPS starts doing something funky, I can just click heading hold and it will go back to holding on the heading. And so you always want to have that backup. And so as you can see, I can pre-select GPS and nav, and until I deselect heading hold, it will not go get rid of it. So that's very realistic. That's how it is in IRL. Is you have certain hierarchy that which systems take precedence over other systems. All right, so we're turning back here. go ahead and we'll descend down to 1,000. Normally I don't like just scud running this much, but the game puts us in a constant state of haze. And I would say that's probably because, you know, for resources, it is, you know, it's getting rid of landmass as it doesn't need it. And the issue with that is that, you know, I think we have to have haziness all the time. It would be nice if it was a little bit clearer, but it is not. So currently this keypad works. That's kind of Airbus style, is having a keypad on either side like that. All right, we're descending. We are descending. All right, so we're going to come back in for a landing. So some things to fix. This works well in the water. Takes off, lands on the water pretty well. I have a system in there, so one of the things that you have issues with in the game is the water drag is very high. So one of the ways you can overcome this for seaplanes is you connect the pitch of the propellers to the gyro that is controlling your elevators. And so that will help you pitch the aircraft. I also connect to the roll for yaw. But that only works when I get on the water. So it's with when I'm on the water or when I'm down, I think it's 10 meters. And so and that also simulates ground effect. So ground effect you get when you're within 1/2 of a wingspan. So we have from the center of the craft out to the wing, it's about 30-ish, not 30 meters, but 30-ish feet, which is about 10 meters. And so that also gives us more control as we get in that ground speed. It will give us more pitch authority, so it actually feels like I'm getting some advantage from being in ground effect. I keep saying ground speed, ground effect. All right, so I think this is working out really well, this craft. I'm enjoying this so far. I'll show you that little car when I get there. So so right now my ramp is all the way up. If I press the watertight door, it will do nothing. If I lower the ramp to the middle position, it will then allow the door to open up. So this is so that you can go out on the door in flight. Whether you're going to really do that or not is another question. Can I go up? As you can see, I can't go up on the ramp. It will auto-close the door, and then it will automatically put the ramp up. So that system is automated, working well. So there's one there. There's one in the cockpit right here, and I showed you the one on the outside. So I'm going to put in a jump seat back here at least. Can't really do, I could probably put two. I'll put one here and I'll put a jump seat here. I was going to put a closet in, but I decided against it. So let's check our bearing system here. We are 6.4 nautical miles. We're going to be there in 2 minutes. So the under deck here is, I like this here. This is going to allow us to sleep between missions. We can leave this out in the world. Also with that cargo system, I have a couple little boats. I'm going to build a carriage to be able to put those little boats in the back of this. And I'm also going to, I built a little cart, if I could speak, that I'll show you guys. And that can be loaded in here, so that's going to be fun. So what are we, 1:06. So let's go ahead. I'm going to take the autopilot off. I'm going to start getting ready for landing. Landing gear is down. Okay, I was going slow because I didn't put my flaps all the way down. That's why. All right, so we have to watch my altitude here. I'm only at 600 feet. It is so hazy out, I cannot see the water till I almost hit it. So that's kind of gross. Let's go full flaps here. All right, so we want to go props full forward. So I'm pushing the 1 key and I'm going props full forward here. Now, one of the things I talked about this last episode, I think, I add what I call an anti-flap system. So, and I also have to trim in my aircraft. So let me add some power here. So I make it so that I have to trim. You have to trim IRL every time you do a picture. Oh, there's the water. See, it's so hazy I can't see the water. This is almost like, you know, instrument flight conditions because of how hazy the game gets, which is hella unrealistic. What is why? Oh, yeah, we're gonna crash because I'm not paying attention. All right, trying to do 9 things that's so hazy. So I have the fog all the way down, and it's so foggy I can barely see here. Let's double check that. As you can see, fog 0. So where the hell is the airport here? 271. So it's to the right. So 271. I read the bearings to tell me where to go here. So see, it's like incredibly foggy even when the game is not foggy. So that's very annoying to me. It makes it so that it's like instrument flight conditions at all times. So I need to still go props forward. So I was talking about the anti-flap system, and that was actually kind of what made me sink, is it adds a lot of drag with anti-flaps. So you'll notice that in game you put in flaps, you'll often get the tail coming up. That's not realistic, so I make it so that it also gives me a lot of drag. It gives me a realistic deck angle. It also gives me a realistic sink rate. So I can dive in like this, and I have a very realistic sink rate. This feels super realistic to me. And I recovered it just like I would recover a real one. All right, and we're going to go all the way back down into reverse. As you can okay, something's up. What is up with my throttles? Okay, it's this. So if you put any trim in here, you can't bring your throttles back, which is a pain in the ass. So we're having a little bit of an issue here. I'm just going to recall it. It's being stupid. So I accidentally hit 9 things while I was, hit the Alt key as I was doing stuff. So let's work on the gear. As you can see, I want to get rid of these panels. I had to do a bunch of changes. I followed people's advice, which is always a mistake. I'm kidding. It's not always a mistake, but it often is, you know, there's a reason why I do the things I do and why I do them. And so one of the things people would recommend to me is, hey, you know, you can do 32 button channels and you can do 32 gauge channels. You can do essentially 32 reads and writes. I understand that. But the issue often is, if you number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and then you do that, I would need 2 panels here. So I did 1 panel. So this is all 1 panel worth here. So we have 1 composite in, we have 1 composite out. The issue is, if there's any mistake here, it causes duplicate buttons, and it took me like an hour to fish down a problem. If I number them all independently, I can easily change this button. It always keeps the same number. And so it would be like these panels, and then it would be all of these together. And so that's why I tend to do it that way. And so I did it a different way, and it caused me some problems. But, you know, luckily it's on 1 composite node now, but it added a hell of a lot more work. All right, so let's figure out this gear, why my gear is not working. So let's see. Could it be as simple as I didn't plug in? Yep, I didn't plug in the distance sensor and the fluid level. So those are plugged in now. That will work. All right, so that should fix the gear. All right, so let's save this. So this is working really well now. Let's go ahead, and I want to grab the cart that I made on. So I'll show you the cart, and I'll also load it and unload it. So this cart actually took an unreasonable amount of time to get working. And part of it is this is, you know, I tend to have some knowledge about transmissions, and I tend to make some pretty elaborate transmissions. And there are a lot of techniques IRL that you can do if your car has too long of gears, if it has too few gears. Like, you know, cars back in the 50s used to be 3 speeds. They'd have 3 gears. And so that you can make that work. But what you have to do is, say you're in first gear, you have to run first gear all the way out to red line. And then you shift to second gear, and it almost brings you down to a stall. And then you have it floored, but you're way below peak torque. So what's going to happen is, because you're way below peak torque, it's going to take you a long time to get up to peak torque. And then once you hit peak torque, the needle will start moving quickly, and you redline it again. Then you switch to third, and it's again, you're real close to stall. You're going to accelerate very, very slowly, and then eventually you'll get up to max speed. And so that works fine, having long gears. One of the ways to solve this is having shorter gears and more of them. So like, instead of having a 3-speed, you'd have a 6-speed. That's why they have a lot of 6-speed manuals now. And so that allows you to accelerate faster. So you know, you might only dip 100 RPM below peak torque, and you might only go 100 RPM over peak torque instead of going way low and way high. And so you don't have to shift that much. And so there are some other things you can do. One is feathering the clutch. So if you watch my auto clutch tutorial, I essentially have an auto clutch feather. That's what the auto clutch does. Is, so let's say I'm driving a tractor trailer and I have a very heavy trailer. If I don't want to, you know, rev way up and just let go of the clutch. It sounds, you can do that in a car, and it chatters the tires a little, and you squeal your tires a little. You do that in a tractor trailer, you're going to break your drive shaft. You're going to, you know, break your transmission. You'll blow your transmission out doing that. There's too much torque. You will rip stuff apart if you do that. So you can't do that in a tractor. What you do is you will give it a little bit of revs within normal rev range, and you will let out the clutch just a little bit. It will give some power engagement, and then as the truck starts to drop RPM and stall, you put the clutch back in. That unloads the engine a little bit, and so you're going in and out on the clutch, and it will gently get you going. And it's acting as though you have an even lower gear. And so this will auto feather. And so I was able to make this work with this cart only has 2 gears, and so it needed to be low enough where it could go up ramps and stuff like that, but it also needed to be fast enough to do rescues. So let's take a look at it. So I had the timing fixed on this. Now the timing is misbehaving. So I just need to redo the timing. I think I slowed that down or I sped the ramp up, and one or the other screwed it up. So let's open this up too. So this cart has 6 seats. It has a diesel motor in there, which is good. You could do electric. I have an electric cart, but I want to be able to drive long distance with this. So I want to be able to land the plane somewhere and then drive a good distance and go move people. I want to be able to, like, say, land at an airport and drive up to a hospital or something. We did a mission where I landed here at Ender. It would be nice to land here, take the car, and drive to this village where the people need to go. And so that's the kind of thing that I want to be able to do with this. So let's go ahead and jump in. So let me see, 6. Can't see my RPM. Okay, tack is on. Brakes. I can't remember if I have brakes here. So let's go forward. So let me turn the sound up so you can hear it. So you hear how it is way revving, and then the clutch comes in. This is feathering like I would as a professional driver of if I needed to get a heavy load moving. And so what I can do is this allows me to make the gear ratio higher than it should be. Because when you're trying to get a vehicle moving, right, an object at rest tends to stay at rest, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So just like I was talking about breakaway, where you have to give it a lot of throttle to be able to get moving, the same thing is true with a car. It wants to stay stationary, you have to give it a lot of throttle to get going. So as you can see, this will auto feather that clutch, and even though the gear ratio is too high, it will let us get going. And as you can see, we're doing 26 meters per second, and then if I press, I think it's 1, you'll notice it drops our speed, but we'll eventually get back up even higher speed. And this, as you can hear, is much quieter. This is going to be not only going nice and fast, but this burns a lot less fuel. And this is a higher gear ratio here. So this allows us to, as you can see, not have a screaming engine and to still drive very fast. That's my tack. This is my speedo. I was looking at the wrong thing. I used to have speedo over here and tack over there. That's why I keep looking at the wrong one. But as you notice, the tack is much lower, and the speed is 44 meters per second. So we're doing 90 miles an hour here. So as you can see, we can go do rescues 90 miles an hour. And so this is doing it with just 2 gears, and that's all because I can feather the clutch. And you hear how it's feathering. Let's go down to a low gear. So you see here, the tack's much higher, our speed's slower. That's going to allow us to maybe even pull a little trailer. So I stalled out. I need to put an auto restart on this. I don't have that on there yet. All right, we're back up and running. All right, so let's load it in. So as you can see, because I'm feathering the clutch, I can have those 2 gears and I can still drive nice and slow. Let's see, I need to check my ramp where I am. So it's all about feathering that clutch. Allows me to run 2 gear ratios and still have like a, a low enough ratio that I can do, a little bit of towing perhaps. You see, I think it's 4 is lights. What is brakes? I can't remember what I set for parking brake. But anyway, so that is that. So as you can see, this cart will fit in. I I haven't decided how I'm going to tie it down. Probably do some ropes. The other thing I can do is I'll make a little utility. It'll be grippers, and it will have a connector. And so the grippers will come on here. I'll lock the grippers, and then this will snap and hold on to the track. I'd also like to make a little boat that can go in here as well. So kind of cool. I think this is going to be neat to be able to have these sorts of things. So let's see what I want to work on here. Let's recall all this back into the workbench. Let's grab that and get rid of it. All right, so this is flying really well. Lands well in the water, operates well in the water. I don't know about opening that back door in the water, but that's a possibility. I'd really rather not, actually. Let's get this ramp fixed. So let's try this. So these need to be, at a certain speed to make them work right. So this needs to be, what's that? 0.03. Let's make them both the same and see if that works. So these are probably higher. I think I put them higher. No, they're both the same. So let's go higher on these. Make these 5s. Nope, that would be why. This one's screwed up here. Let's try this. 0.05. This one here was off. That would be why. Okay. Let's go 0.05 and let's do the same actually. Let's do 0.03s. I just noticed that was wrong, so that would be why. Because I redid this ramp a couple times. Let's see if it hangs up now. Okay, it still does. So the ramp is faster. So this second segment needs to be faster. So let's make that faster. Let's go to 5s. There we go. Let's see. All right, still not fast enough, so we need to increase this. Let's go one more on either side here, and then we need to drop the ramp speed here. I did change all these, and that was why it's causing me issues. Again, if we had there we go. So if we had a composite, so let's put this in its, so let's press the airtight door. It will not open up until this ramp goes down. I just need to make sure it doesn't hang up. All right, so there we go. It hit it a little bit, but it didn't cause a problem. Okay, good. Let's go up. I could put a pause between them as well. All right, so that works better. Those are timed. Need a paint under here, so that's this section there needs paint. That needs to not be blue, okay. So I'll end up off screen. I'll put these all these microcontrollers away. As you can see, I have a lot. Some of them I'm not actually using. So in the wings, these are gonna all go top and bottom of the wings. I have a ton of space in the bottom. Big builds, lots of space. I have space here and there. And that will increase the fuel capacity of this sucker. So I'm currently using the whole wing volume for fluid capacity or for fuel capacity. As I put these in, that will increase my capacity. I'd like to get back up to, more fuel, maybe 20,000 pounds of fuel. So let's do a little paint here while we're here. So really loving this build. It's coming along. The cockpit took forever, and I'm definitely going to do more, like I was saying, of modular stuff. I like building different cockpits. I like to have to, I love going into different planes. That was a big thing that I really enjoyed when I was flying was, going into different planes and having the cockpits be different, have the characteristics being different. If you went into everything and they all had the same cockpit or everything, it'd be so boring. And so I tend to, when I build an airplane especially, I make the cockpits different every time. Now that I have the gauges that I need, so I have a really good jet in the Cap Air jet. This is a really good twin engine seaplane. It doesn't need to be a seaplane, but twin engine plane, propeller plane, reciprocating propeller plane. Let's put it that way. I'll also need to do, this could actually work as a twin engine turboprop now too, because it has beta and it has reversers. So this would actually work as a twin turboprop. And then I have 4-engine stuff too. So I have cockpits for 4-engine stuff. So now I have enough cockpits that I could kind of quickly go in and do whatever I need to do to, just make some of those modules where I can just, not have to redo everything all the time. And I can just use the parts that there, I think. Let's see. Go there and there. Why is symmetry not on when I want it on? There we go. Let's do that. Okay. So that is painted in there, and then we can go ahead and put this back in there. Okay, that didn't need to be painted. This can be white. I like to keep it white between the blocks. Oh, come on. All right, good. And let's paint that. Nice. All right, so let's see what else to do here. I'll hide panels on my own time. We're getting close to the point where we can do some missions with this. Electricity. It's going to be kind of boring, but we'll hook up electricity. I'll hook up electricity later. It is just a ton of electricity to hook up, and I'll do that later. I need to fix my crossfeed problem, so let's do that. This will let me kind of show you how this runs too. So if we look at the wings here, this is the fuel that goes into the engine. That's a spawner. That's a meter. And then this here is our crossfeed. And so this allows us to take fuel from one side and put it in the other. So sometimes you get a fuel imbalance, and so one side will be, say, 200 pounds lighter. Well, 200 pounds right here isn't a big deal with a plane this big. 200 pounds out here is starting to get where it's going to cause you to lean to the right a little bit, because the longer the lever arm, think of it as a long wrench. The longer the arm and the wrench, the more torque you put on. So you have 200 pounds missing on the side, it will torque down. And so you want to do a fuel balance where you send fuel from the heavy wing into the light wing and level them out. So we had that in the airlines, and we would always forget to shut it back off, and then we'd have to balance it back the other way. So let's see, right here. So it's right there. Okay, I think, let me see. I think I'm missing, nope, there, okay. So it's coming up from here, across here, down here, and it goes into this pump system here. So it comes down here. Let's just double check, make sure we have a corner piece. There we do. All right, so the fuel will go down here, and it will come down this pipe. Stop flicking the camera, guy. And it will come over here. Oh my God, the cameras drive me nuts. And it will come down here, and it will go into this T and then out to the left here. And then let's see where we're missing it here. Something screwy, I think. Nope, it looks right. So let's see, that connects. So that's an angle piece going this way, and then it comes over here. It will come to here, and then I need to make sure there's an angle piece here. So it angles this way. Then it goes down here into the floor. And it comes across here. You can even see it out on this side here. And it comes across. Let's make sure I'm not missing them anywhere. Okay. Comes up here. Goes over here. All right, make sure that's connecting correctly. And then what it will do is it will get pulled in to... Okay, I need a valve. It's not going to work without a valve. So you would turn this one on here, and theoretically it should pull from there. You know what I could do? I could do it without a valve, but I have to stick one of the pumps here. Let's do it with a valve. I kind of like the valve better. What is a valve? Valve 2 or 3? I can't remember. So we need to add a valve there because it's won't let me transfer it if I don't. Let me see. Symmetry on. Yep. Okay, good. So now it will come down here through the valve, through there, and then it will come through the pump, and the pump will push it up over this engine here, and then it will come down there, and it will go into this tank. Okay, so the valve is what I think I was missing there. Okay, good. So let's see. This pump goes to the left side, so if we want to cross feed, I want to make sure this is cross feed to port. It should be cross feed to port. So where is it? Cross feed to the number 1 side. And so in order to cross feed to the number 1 side, I need to open the number 2 side valve, which is right there. And then I have here, this is the number 2 crossfeed, and in order to do the number 2 crossfeed, I need to open this valve so the fluid comes down through the valve, and then the pump pushes it into the wing. So we can test that now. So these are a lot of realistic systems. The aircraft behaves realistically. I didn't show you in the air, but so you can't go in a beta, you can't go in a reverse in the air like in real life. So that's realistic. Let's see. Let's go ahead and crossfeed. All right, so we have 2804, 2804. Let's start feeding to one side. Okay, so these are full tanks right now, so it's going to be a pain. So let's go like this. Let's recall it. Let's go in here. Let's grab the spawner. Let's go to, say, 50% on one side. So we have a big imbalance. We have 50% more weight, and that's why you do this in pounds. When you get to bigger aircraft, you'll go to pounds. I'm sure they do kilogram and metric airplanes. But you can see we have, that's about a 1,400 pound difference. And so that's 1,400 pounds sitting on one wing that's not on the other. Well, that's going to make us turn to the right. And so we have to fight that with aileron. Well, that's aileron. We don't have to actually control the aircraft. We're just doing it to control the balance. So we want to balance into this tank, as you can see. And so now we're taking from this tank and balancing into this tank. And so once they get close, we would just shut the valve, we'd shut it off. There we go. And so as you can see, that's much more realistic. They're within 40 pounds of each other. And so you'll get into situations and you can cross feed that way. So that's good. Next, I want to figure out what the hell's wrong with hydraulics. So I'll show you the hydraulic system. Pretty simple. And I put in kind of a neat feature in there. So let me check. I had to renumber a bunch of stuff, so I could have screwed it up somewhere. So let's look at the hydraulic system. So the hydraulic system is here. And so if we look at the hydraulic system, let's see. So if the RPS is greater than 3, so essentially if the engines are on, so generally in this type of aircraft, you have engine-driven hydraulic pumps. So you'd have an accessory gearbox or a belt-driven or even electric-driven hydraulic pump. And you need the engine on for that to run. Often, sometimes electric boost pumps, you don't need it on. But the hydraulics would pump, when the engine's on. So essentially, if the engine's on, it's going to start pumping hydraulics. And if this button's on. So if my switch is on, let's make sure that's going to panel. It is. All right, so if the switch on the panel, which is 26, is on and we're over 3, we want this to count up. So it's going to count up at 1 up to 1,500 PSI. That's then going to read down here on channel 27 and go out onto the dash. So let's check all that. So 26, 27. All right, we want to make sure that all is working. I'm not going to do too much of this panel stuff for you guys. I want to get into some missions, but I did a ton of work, so I just figured some people like to see how it's going. So 27, that's correct. That's what's reading out to. This should now be 1,500 PSI. I changed it. So that's 27. And then the switch is 26. So 26, 27, that is correct. I don't know why it is not counting, though. This is 29. And the switch is 28. 29, 28. Okay, let's look at that. So 26, 27, 29, 28. 26 is the hydraulic switch. All right, enabled. That's going to take 150 seconds. Now it's ticks, so that won't take that long. And if we don't fulfill both things, it's going to give us a knot. Okay, so it will count down essentially. So 26, 27, that reads out. Make sure I don't have any other 27s there. It's good. This caused me a lot of problems. I had numbers screwed up. Okay, I've had cross numbering, which has been a problem. And then this one is 29 and 28. All right, let's check this one. All right, so RPM is greater than, RPS is greater than 3, and 20, okay. So what was that? 29, 28. This should be 28. 28, and this is 29. Okay, that's probably what caused the problem. Is those same numbers, they weren't going to do anything. Let's check them. That's one of the reasons, like I said, I don't like to do the gauges, you know, similar numbers too. Let's go ahead and, so we need battery avionics on. You start a motor to get, or an engine. Call them motors, they're not really motors sometimes. Let's see, does that count up? What's my, let's go ahead and power up. So let's go into beta. Can't go into beta and power up at the same time. There we go. Okay, hydraulics is working now. Let's try the other side. It's not going to work. So the way this system works is you see it counting up. It's going to go up to 1500 psi. All right. The minimum psi I need to articulate my control surfaces of my aircraft, so any of my hydraulic control surfaces, my elevators, my ailerons, my rudders, I'm going to do it for, I should add landing gear as well. That would be on the hydraulic system. Sometimes brakes even are on that hydraulic system. I put the brakes on this on a separate system. As you can see, we get 1500 psi. That's the minimum, so we could run on one hydraulic pump. So if we had an engine failure, we still have enough hydraulic pressure to run all of our control surfaces. All right. So what does this cost us if we don't have that? So if we look at, so this here is a combining panel. There's a seat combiner. So if you're curious how you do this, what this allows me to do is I can fly from either the left or the right seat, the captain's or the first officer's seat. And so all it's really doing is it's taking all my my ADWS up, down, and it's adding them together so that they, this one can't be added. Nope, that's fine. That can be added. Okay, that's fine. Nope, this can't be added. I can clamp it though. Okay, let me clamp it. What is this going to here? What is that? I'm trying to see what the heck this is here. Okay, so this one here, this one could be a problem because you can go to 1 on the first officer side and you can go to 2, and if it doesn't actually hit the number, you're in trouble. So what we'll do is this, we'll clamp it. Not threshold, please, clamp. All right, so we'll clamp this, and this will be -1, 1. There we go. That will fix that issue there. Okay, so that issue is now fixed. This one needs that as well. And I'll put it on anything that this touches. Just let's do this instead here. No, I'm going to do it this way. It neatens up my lines too, which I tend to like. But that will fix this so that it can't go over. Because let's say you had 2 people flying, and both people press the up arrow, the up arrow. It would make it so the throttle doesn't respond. And so this will allow it so that if both people were pressing it, it would still push the throttle up. And so this will be, clamp that, and this will go to there, and that cleans my lines up, which I love. Love clean lines, I really do. I hate diagonals. I don't mind 45s, but if they're all friggin' all over the place, that's why, like, some people hate it when I do this, but that's not bad. That's straight lines. But like if they're like all over town, gross. Don't care. Like this is annoying me, these little, but at least this makes a cool little shape. I know my mind is just kind of weird, but all right, let's see. So this here is, so okay, so that's good. Let's see where I'm at here. All right, so I'm in the seat combiner hydraulics. Okay, so I haven't hooked up the hydraulic system yet. All right, so let's see, where are we at here? Okay, this would be why this isn't working. All right, so I know why this isn't working. So right here, you take this panel here, and this needs to go there or else it's never going to work. Okay, good. So that is now plugged in. So what this is doing is that's reading my hydraulic pressure, okay? And I go back in here, I'll show you. So this is reading the hydraulic pressure, okay? And because this is reading the hydraulic pressure, it's coming up here and it's taking that off, and it's right here, as you can see, it's reading. Oh, are these the right numbers? No. What the hell channel is this? Okay, still didn't finish it. Let's figure out what channels those go to again. So this is going to be reading out on channel 27 and 29. All right, 27 and 29. So this gets complicated. And so, for example, you probably, I've been putting a bunch of pictures in the Discord. If you're not part of the Discord, great group of people there. If you'd like to share your builds, it's always fun. Go ahead and follow the link in the description. I always have it in the description, and you can go join the Discord and hang out with some people. Please post your builds. There's a build challenge going on there, all that stuff, advertising as I'm going through. But it's a cool place to hang out. I love to see everybody's pictures. I would love to see more pictures of people's builds. I always like to see everybody's builds. It's always a lot of fun for me. So we take channel, is it 28? I forget already. I think it's 28, 29. I'm double, triple checking because I've screwed this up so many times today. 27, 29. Why is it? Okay, yeah, because this is 27, 29. Okay. This really could screw you up if you do this. 27, 29. All right, 27, 29. I have so many intricate systems on one panel. I had this issue where if I misnumbered something, it would do something really bad, like make one of my propellers change pitch when I didn't want it to, and then like I put the flaps down and my propeller pitch would change, and that's dangerous. And so it's going to read 27, 29, and it's going to add them together. Let's do that. It adds them together. If they're less than 1500 psi, remember one system, one hydraulic pump will get us up to 1500. If we go below 1500 psi, it's going to switch it so that all of our WSAD not up down, WSAD and left right. So all of our control surfaces that would be controlled by hydraulics, they will only report 50%. So let's actually test that out. I'll show you that. And so in real life, if you ever go look, we see this on the MD-80s a lot. Some of them lock out now. They would have hydraulic control surfaces, hydraulic ailerons, hydraulic elevators. And so say that you have an aircraft with hydraulic. It doesn't always happen. It depends. It was kind of a lot of the older craft did it, but if you watch like the MD-80s when they were parked at the gate, sometimes the elevators would be drooping and hanging way low. And the reason was the airplane was off and the hydraulic system was off, and so the mass, the weight of the elevator would push the oil back into the sump, and they would sag. And then as soon as they turned on the hydraulic pumps, the elevator would raise up to the center position. So let's go ahead, and so right now we have 0 hydraulic pressure. All right, so now I'm going to try to pitch. And so I should get about 50% of the pitch I would really get. Let's see if it's working. I don't know 100% if it's working, but so we should get less pitch. Let's try it really quick here. I could trim it. Let's trim it. Let's test it here. So it's trimmed to 1, so that should be max elevator deflection. Let's get up here. I have a feeling it's not working right now, so so that is rotation 0.6. Okay. So let's go ahead and come back in here. Let's fire. We have to fire up the engines to get this to do it. Okay, let's fire up 2. Turn on the hydraulics. All right, I need to power up. So there's powering the hydraulics up. And then I need to turn on hydraulic 2. All right, 2 is not working. So as you can see, by the time we get out to the runway, we'll have plenty of hydraulic pressure to take off of. So let's go ahead and fire up 3. All right, 3 is not working. So as you can see, by the time we get out to the runway, we'll have plenty of hydraulic pressure to take off of. So let's go ahead and fire up 4. All right, 4 is not working. So as you can see, by the time we get out to the runway, we'll have plenty of hydraulic pressure to take off of. So let's go ahead and fire up 5. And so if we ever dip below, let's say we have our engine that idle too long, you'll drop on hydraulic pressure and you'll get a reduction in control surface. So we are at 1500 psi now, right? So let's go ahead and go back there and see if we get more. Sneaking suspicion this isn't working yet. I might have, you know what I did? It's backwards. Okay. See how it's at 0.3? So it's backwards. It's 50%. It's backwards. Okay. So it's working, it's just backwards. Okay, so I need to go in here because I have it multiplying. So it needs to multiply by negative 0.5. Let's see, negative, yeah. Is it negative 5 or negative x? I mean negative x. Sorry, I hit my microphone. Negative x. Negative x. Negative x. Okay, so that will, I could just flip the elevators over, but that fixes that. Oh, I don't know. Trying to think. Let's run with that, see if it works. And we need to see what's up with my other hydraulics here. So the number 2 hydraulics were screwed up. They were not coming alive. So let's see what's up with that. So that's 29 is the readout, and 28 is the switch. 29's readout, 28's the switch. 29 is the readout. Okay. 29. 28 is the switch. That could be a bad read on there too. I could have it duplicated somewhere, because that's been happening a lot too. 30. What is 30? I'm trying to think what 30. Okay, 30 is the 30 and 30. What was it? 30 and 31? Yep, 30 and 31 are the beta and the reverser. Just checking everything, make sure I don't have it duplicated somewhere, because I've been having that issue. For some reason, Delta's not coming through. So Delta's not reading. Delta is start channel 2. Delta should not be start channel 2. So, okay, that would be why that's not reading. Now I'm trying to do a couple things while I'm here. Let's read what the deltas are. Trying to fix all my gauges. So these are my deltas right here for voltage, and that should be 3 and 4. Okay, that would be why that's not reading correctly. What are we starting on? Start channel 2. That is correct. And so this should be, nope, that's correct. It's active inputs 1 and 3, so 2 and 4. That's right. It does that thing now where it culls the channel. So I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna leave it. It should be running, but oh, you know what it is? It's because the infinite electricity is on. All right, let's test the hydraulics, see what's up. I might have accidentally double numbered something. That's something I've been doing all day. 26, 27, 28. Okay. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Nope, there you go. That's it right here. This screwed it up. Nope, 3 is hydraulics. That's fine. 31. Okay. Ugh. And I think I fixed 29, 30, 28, 31. That's working. Okay, that's all correct. I don't know why it's screwy. Okay, so that's screwed up. But let's check the sag, because that should be limiting the hydraulics the opposite direction. So let's fix that. Okay. When you make it complex like this, it makes startup and testing take longer and longer and longer and longer. So I hope next episode should be missions. Pretty close. I just need to hide some panels. It's do the electrical system. So I'm not going to bore you guys with all that stuff. But hydraulics are coming on. Let's go ahead and power up. All right, this hydraulic is still not working. And as you can see, as we go down below, it will reduce the hydraulic pressure. So we need to make sure that we get our hydraulic pressure up before takeoff. So I'm actually probably going to change this so that it's not so high. Maybe I'll make it a 2. But for some reason this isn't running. So I have to figure out what's up with that. So one test we can do is let's see if it's the button, if it's the switch. And so that's an easy fix. So we'll change a couple things. We're going to 2 here. One thing is 3 is too high. Let's go to 2. All right, and then so where 28 is, let's do this. Let's go ahead and do a constant on. And this will test it. This will tell us if it's the button. If it's the button or not. That's what that will tell us. Okay. And we can figure out if it's the gauge or not, all with this test. So I'm just going to run the starboard engine, the number 2. And one of the reasons why you have, there we go, see, so it's that 28 is something screwy with that. I bet I have a duplicated number 28. So it's that. So one of the reasons why you start with your hydraulics off, why you start with your generators off, all of these things cause resistance on your engine, and you probably see this in game. If you have an alternator on your engine and the alternator is always at 1, it's stealing power from your engine. And so especially on start, you want to have less resistance. And so let's do this. Let's shut down the number 2 engine. I'll show you something. So you shut your hydraulic pumps off, and essentially what it's doing is it's decoupling it. It has most likely an electronic clutch. And so it would make it so that the hydraulic pump is not connected to the engine. The generators are not connected to the engine. So it has less resistance, so it isn't as hard to start your engine. There's also something I can do with this craft to make it even easier to start. I can reduce my props into beta. If I reduce my props into beta, you'll notice you can see that these are angled, but that's because it's also hooked up to the gyro. So because we're on the ground. But it puts it in beta, so we're no longer doing that 0.25 collective, so there's less resistance, so it's even easier to start the engines now. So that's easier to start the engines in beta. It's less resistance. And so IRL, you'd want your hydraulics off, you'd want your generators off, and then you turn them on afterwards because now your engine's up and moving. It has a lot of momentum. Remember, an object at rest wants to stay at rest. It takes a lot of energy to get that thing to start moving. Once it's moving, it wants to stay in motion. Object in motion tends to stay in motion. So the object wants to stay moving. Well, because it wants to stay moving, even if you add that resistance on, it's not going to stall your engine. And so you can add things like you can turn on your generator by applying the clutch. You can turn on your alternators by applying the clutch. You can turn on your hydraulic pumps by turning on the clutch. You can do all these things now, and now your engine is less encumbered, when you start. And so it makes it easier to start up. And so that is why you do a bunch of those things. So making really good progress on this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Some people really enjoy going through and watching me build these things. But, going through panels, it was literally like, I would say 12, 13 times I changed my mind. I was like, this cockpit had so many different iterations, and here I'll show you my nightmare. So this has been my nightmare here. I have a couple pictures, as you can see. I've had to renumber this thing so many times. And I had to redo the layout so many times. And so quickly going through why I lay these things out. Again, I was a commercial airline pilot. The newer aircraft have come under a really good paradigm shift where things are in much more logical positions than they used to be. Like if you watch videos of people operating old aircraft, like their hand is going everywhere. It's like up and to the left, up and to the right. It's like here, 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 here. So you'd be going like to 1, to 10, to 17, to 2, to 3, to 12, to 19, to 15, to 2. And so you'd jump around like that. This is how a modern aircraft works. 1, 2, right? Batteries on, systems, avionics. If you want to connect to the ground power, so either a GPU, which would be a little generator cart, or you want to hook up to the building, this is GPU, ground power. It's pointing the direction it is. It's going to be on the left side. Let's say you want the APU. You come up to APU, you turn on your APU, it would spool up, and then you would click this, and now you're powered by APU. Under that, you have your batteries, 1 and 2. Then you have your voltage, 1 and 2, to show if you're losing charge, means you're not making enough electricity, or gaining means you're making electricity. Then you're ready to start your engine. You come up, you come down here, right? Beacon comes on before. So they call this a flow in aviation. So you're flowing, and so it should flow very nicely. And so I have a flow going here, and so my flow is 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I want 5 or 6? Nope, I'm going to run on my batteries. I'm going to start with my batteries. I don't need to plug in, and I don't need my APU. Okay. If I need my APU, bing, APU comes on, generator. Check my batteries, battery 1 and 2. Check, because you want to check your batteries before you start. You might not have enough electricity. You might have to hook up to the GPU. We actually were in, where was it? I think it was in Detroit. And we shut the APU off and hooked to the GPU, but the cord wasn't tight and the airplane was too low on power, so they had to hook us back up to GPU and charge our batteries up before we could start. And so you want to check your batteries before you start. You want to check your voltage. At this point, if you have a GPU in, they should be positive. You should be gaining electricity. If you have the APU on, they should be positive, gaining electricity. If you are just running on the batteries, they should be discharging. They should be negative because you're eating. Then you want to go to 7, beacon. Then you want to come up and you want to flip on your so one of the reasons why these aren't in line is you want to break up the silhouette of switches. The only time you want switches in a row like this, all of the same type, is if you want to go click, 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 click. And so what we do next is we actually come up here and we go 11, start. Then we want to go 12, start. Okay? And on our way up, so we'd flow up like this, so we come down, beacon, fuel. We have fuel to take. We have fuel to start our engines, okay? Then we go up, 11, start, 12, start. All right, now that the engines are up and running, we go generator, generator. All right, and so now our generators are on. All right, and so this gets you all set. So you notice most of my electrical systems, a couple outliers like the APU are stuck in areas where they should be, you know, or somewhere else. Like sometimes you put your APU off there because you accidentally don't want to turn on or off your APU, so you put it off to the side somewhere. And so this is all electrical, and you notice the buttons change shape. And that's to tell you, so that's so you don't accidentally look up and you're looking for a red. Imagine if these were all flip switches, you'd never be able to find one. Well, we know that our electricals flip switch, buttons, triangles, gauges, flip switches. So you notice how the silhouettes are broken up? These can all be clicked at once. That's I could click all 4 of these on if I wanted. I could click fuel, fuel, generator, generator, start, start, and that would be fine. But I tend to start with my gens off. And then we go down, we have fuel. All of our fuel is together. So this is all our fueling system. That's fuel tank 1 and 2. That's fuel flow, and that's fuel crossfeed. Then we come up here, we have the APU. This is going to be icing. Icing's all to itself here, right here. That's going to be the icing system. That's in its own subsystem. And then this is temperatures. So you have ice and temperatures together in a system. And then this section here is all together. That is all of your lights. And so you do this these should be close together and in a row like this because you want to go beacon. If you're at night, you want to go nav. Then you want to put on logo at night that lights up your tail number. And then when you're ready to take off, you would go strobes, or you can taxi with your taxi light on, but then when you're ready to take off, you go strobes, taxi, landing lights, go. All right, so that's set up logically. And then we come in here and we have the 2 manifold pressures. They're in the center because both pilots need to operate. Anything that both pilots need to be able to see to fly needs to be in the center. So you have manifold pressure, so the power of the engines, RPM of the engines, temperatures of the engines, all centralized so both pilots can fly and monitor. Then you have your props. Both pilots can reach the props. You have your thrust levers, throttles. Both pilots can reach them. They're towards the center. In most aircraft, they're actually perfectly in the center, so both have them. Flaps are where both pilots can reach them. Often they're on the first officer side. Then you have more of your engine controllers here, or engine indicators, engine indicators there. So it's going to be beta and reverse. And then you have your hydraulic system. Hydraulic could go up top, but this works here as well, because you need to get it over a certain RPM to be able to do that. Your parking brake is here. Things you don't want to touch while you're flying. I don't want to accidentally shut off a hydraulic system while I'm flying. It's way back here. I have to actually turn around to do it. Things that I don't want to hit are way up here, right? I don't want to accidentally shut off my batteries. I don't want to accidentally shut off my fuel for my engines. I don't want to accidentally shut off my generators. They're way up high. I actually have to reach up and behind me. That's how it is in real life. You want them out of your way so you don't accidentally hit them. If I accidentally shut off or turn on a light, not a big deal. Accidentally shut off my fuel, big deal. And so you don't want to, so that's why it's segregated with buttons up top, a lot of gauges, then buttons on the bottom. So very logical. This is all human factors. You see this in a lot of my challenges. I really focus on human factors, and that's why. It makes it easier to fly. It makes it so you're not hunting and pecking. Last couple systems here are lights, and that is the cargo. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Definitely going to be doing some missions. I've done enough building on these videos. I thought I'd catch you guys up. Working really well. It's finally getting there. So before next episode, I'm going to hide microcontrollers, hopefully, and I'm going to hook up all the electrical systems. I have a couple more systems just to kind of iron out, and we should be there and should be able to go do some missions. And I'm really looking forward to doing some missions. I also can build a little boat for this. I have my little cart. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.